Great Tuesday. Welcome to the new first launch edition of the Becoming More Fully Human podcast. I'm your host, King, and I'm joined by my co hosts, Jess, Esther, and Rachel. How you ladies doing today?
Doing
Great.
great.
Good to be here.
Great to be here with you. Let's do our check in so that we let folks know where we're going to be vibrating at to even set the tone of our show. And we choose a number between 0 being life sucks and 10 being life is awesome. And I had to give more context here. I feel a need because the question really comes down to the fact that it's really more about choice with the questions asked. Because at the end of the day, we can choose our number. We can't choose what happens in our life, but we can choose how we respond. Choosing that number is a powerful and intentional choice. But I realize it can only come after going through your list of gratitude, saying what you're grateful for. And I'll just go into what I'm grateful for this morning. That's just my life and to be here and to be able to be positive and have sound mind and live a purpose and connect and have this opportunity to discuss and build with you all. Those are things I'm grateful for at the very least. And that is what gets me at the 10 level of my spiritual energy.
Yeah,
So with that being said, what's your energy levels like?
I can say that I'm right with you on all that you said. I'm alive. And I'm pretty grateful for that. That's first and foremost, and all the things that come with it, good, bad, happy, sad, the experiences. As far as my spiritual level, I feel like if I'm able to be aware of my spiritual level, then all the other levels have to follow suit because I am a human, but in this human body, I carry an essence that's eternal. And that's where my spirituality lies for me.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for differentiating that because it's clearing up when we ask the number, like, what's your spiritual energy number? And my spiritual energy number is 10. I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful for the relationships that we have here that continue reflecting the importance of life and love and compassion and interconnectedness. It's just, it's such a breath of fresh air to be alive today and to be able to be in a circle like this where I receive these reflections of what's possible for humanity. I'm grateful
Absolutely.
to be here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And see, to me, that's a beautiful way to start a podcast, right? With that kind of intentionality, with that kind of gratitude, you know that you're going to be, your journey throughout the next hour is going to be one that at least has a strong vibration. How people receive it is how they receive it and how it resonates with them. But the intentionality of ours is there to be and vibrating at a very high level in a state of gratitude. That to me is an excellent way to open up any kind of space of communication with individuals. And I think that comes through only building relationships over time with individuals to have that kind of alignment. So we're in alignment with each other, so we naturally feel connected and interested in the other person's gratitude because it lifts us up as well. Because we also know a piece of their journey. I know a piece of your journey. You know a piece of my journey. So when we say our gratitude, it even has a deeper resonance than it would normally will with other people. We don't have that history. So those are the things I see the value of really beginning to really build your tribe and really connect with the people who are in alignment with you, and you spend most of your time with those individuals and less time with individuals that you have to be with who are going to vibrate lower. But that's what life is. It can always be a high vibration all the time. There's polars. It's just being able to find that balance and find and live it with as much intentionality as you possibly can. That's my beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun when we get to be in this, I guess we create a bubble of frequency, right? When we take, and it's a little bit like yoga. When I go to yoga and I get on my mat, I can create a state of being on my mat. But the challenge is not being on my mat and like being in that state. It's the challenge is taking that state off of my mat and going deep into another environment. You know, let's say I try and take that into Walmart and have a conversation. It's a whole other game, right? So as we take these 10s into the podcast, or we take these 10s into the world, we can talk about some pretty deep things. We can go into some pretty heavy areas, and knowing that state helps me maintain that state wherever I go, or maybe that becomes my practice.
Or at least reels you back in, you know, when you're getting me. For me, I'm like, my curiosity, if I go into like Walmart, I'm like, whoa, what makes that happen? What's this going on over here? You know, and I'm like, whoa, reel it back in. Okay, come on. And I had, you know, I studied yoga too, and one of my yoga teachers said to me, and I never forgot, he's like, yeah, you can do this now. Could you sit on the streets of India and do this? And could you sit cross-legged literally on the street of India, in Mumbai, he was talking about? And he's like, could you do that? And I'm like, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I have actually learned to do that. And I've always incorporated that little saying into my classes too. Like, imagine yourself in the middle of New York City. And yeah, it's a thing. Pull yourself back. You always have the choice. Like King, you mentioned choices. And we always have that choice of who we want to be and when. We always have choice.
Absolutely. You know, and to that point, that's what I think people give up when they don't think about their identity critically, and at least understanding, how do I get this identity? Why do I have this identity? And if you could define that, then that's a person who at least puts me on the path of intentionally choosing your identity. Because I've learned more than anything else that's been consistent about my life since I got into the self-help, personal growth development space, was that you want to own your mind at the end of the day. And the only way to own your mind is to intentionally give it information that's good for your value first, and then the value of others second, and then it expands. And the more you can give more and more value, then the more impact you're going to have, then that's the life you're going to have. And in that mindset, always thinking about how to be better off the next day, to be a better person the next day, be a better thinker, a kinder person. How can I have that as my intention and goals? Because if that's not my intention and goals, it's going to be something that was given to me by someone else. It's not going to be in my best interest. Right? And because then when you get those goals, you're not satisfied. Then if they say the goal line moves again, now you got to get another goal. If you get your PhD, now you got to get your dual something else, because that's what the next level of. It's not just resting at that space. It's always another level to try to achieve, because you're chasing something external instead of doing something internal and just allowing yourself to go with life. Because how much more education do you need as far as how to think and reading other people's thoughts, as opposed to just learning, as Emerson said, from nature. Let nature be your teacher. So if you really want to go out, if you really want to learn anything, just go out and sit and watch how nature moves. That's the best lessons you can have, and it's free.
Yeah. Well, and if you really want to connect with source or develop spirituality, that would be the place to go as well.
That's a great start for sure. First, definitely. Nature forces you to go inside, and you know, when you're coming to your identity of who you are. First of all, I wanted to mention the change in the title of doing this podcast. You know, going from othering to being fully human. And being fully human to me means that you're connected to everything. So there, in essence, there is no othering as a human. It's a full connection. It's a full, like, human. The word could be synonymous with connected. connectedness, because that's the almost responsibility. But in order to get there and recognize that within yourself, you've got to use the fuel, so to speak, of vulnerability. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to go inside and recognize what actually is yourself, what actually is your identity, as opposed to what was put upon you, or what have you taken on from others. And, many of us are super empaths and don't even realize we've been living the life that someone else has imposed on us. But then to go and take that huge power of being an empath and bringing it inward and letting it shift and letting it flow back outwards as you've recognized that portion of yourself that may have been diminished or hiding or wounded or whatever it is that happened, and being able to shift that into that essence, to that stronger connection of being fully human, that brings you like a way deeper experience in life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So much so to the point where the way I think now, adding a systems perspective, is how do I create an environment that gives me that most of the time? Like, I want to do what I want to do. My goal was to do what I wanted to do 97% of the time, and then do what I have to do the other 3%. And that, being on that quest, I realized how much that shifted, because what I realized is that what I wanted to do was not the same thing that I had wanted to do previously before I started the quest. What I wanted to do, in other words, how my mind changed about what I wanted to do concerning helping others. At the beginning, it was limited. 3% meant 3% all of me. But as that grew, 97% included caring for others as well. And that was an interesting journey for me to do that. And
as you think you're going into yourself, you're actually serving others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as I talk about that, to show the alignment, I have my alarm playing Michael Jackson behind me, because he always comes on at the time I talk about this particular story. And that's the beauty of how aligned the story is. And it knows when to go off and stop. So it just reminds me that Michael was one of my heroes. And the Earth song that he talked about was, again, speaking about the power of caring about something greater than yourself. And when you begin to care about something greater than yourself, then life has a whole different energy and intentionality and perspective of how you look at it. Right? And then you begin to be blessed when you start to see examples of people helping you along that journey as you live that journey, where it's not going to give you the immediate values that the construct tell you what is value.
Right.
But the valuing system is finances is not going to give you immediate financial value. If anything in that material realm is your way you look at it, observe, and say, I give this value or not, then you're going to miss the blessing.
Right.
You have to see that who am I becoming as a result of being associated? That's the question.
Right.
And then as you answer that question, and then you create the value yourself, as opposed to being someone telling you, here's what the value I'm offering and giving you. It's you find it by asking yourself, who am I becoming as a result of this association, this connection, this practice, this set of rhythms.
Or what did this perceived as wreckage or turmoil, what did this bring to me? Right. It takes a moment. It certainly takes a moment, but that's where the going in with that vulnerability. And then it's fascinating to me, King, how incredibly different we're all configured. And if we stand in our authenticity of who we really are, like your Michael Jackson really resonates with you to bring that out. And for me, it's more like being amongst people and just watching joy in people and how that happens. And just, I could walk down the street and be like, oh, look, there's a elderly couple over there holding hands. Like, wow, just little things, little tiny things like that really spark big things inside of me, or someone helping a duck.
Yeah.
You know, it's silly and it's tiny little things in life, but that's what really makes these huge, like almost momentous changes and shifts inside of me personally. And it's probably different for you, Jess. Like, you know, there's probably something different that occurs to trigger that in you. And part of recognizing that within yourself allows you then to go out into the masses and be like, oh, well, that person may not be, you know, in resonance with me or how I'm living my life, but look what they're doing. And look at how they're doing it for themselves in their life, and on and on and on. And, you know, that big overview of, you know, what I am not source. I don't have the full overview, but imagine if you were source and you had that full overview to see like the connections and the sacred geometry of it all, and how everything happens for a reason. And because that's kind of where I come from. And maybe that's not true, but that's how I work. And maybe me just being able to share that in the world, or have that knowing in the world, beacons outwardly to touch someone else who does resonate with that and can move into that and start making different choices because of it.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a distilling of your essence. I've witnessed that happen with you, where, you know, you've really had to go inward and focus on, you know, connecting to your own life force. And you're like, as selfish as that looks at times, what it did was it opened you up to seeing those little sparks and glimmers of life.
Yeah, I think we all need that too.
Do.
That's important for every human being on this planet, to be able to have that discernment of when you need to stop and pause. And back in the day when I was having clients, back in the day, like it was so long ago, but when I was having clients, that was the first thing I'd say to them. Like, have you ever taken a pause? Like this one person in particular, like they worked in economy and statistics, and they're like, you know, office hours and meetings and this and this and this and travel and go and go and go. And I'm like, did you ever like take a week off just to breathe or walk in nature? And they're like, well, no, I don't have time for that. I've got to keep this going and that system going. And it's like, yeah, but you got to keep your system going too. And that's most important, or none of these systems work.
Yeah.
So to take that breath and pause, and then giving yourself the ability to learn that and learn the discernment of it, because you can go the other way and you can sit in pause and become stagnant, or in illness and become stagnant, and then just be like, I'm dying.
Right.
And then you have to make that choice. It's all about choice and balance and discernment, but it all has to come from your heart, your inner flame, you know, whatever it's saying.
Yeah, that's exactly why I created the process of the regulation rhythm, because I noticed as I started going inward that it's like this acceleration, deceleration. I was in the mode of doing, and being in the box of a title, which is like CFO, business owner, entrepreneur, you know, or any other title, label, construct that I gave myself. Where when it was vacation time, I couldn't actually put the computer down.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually take the breath. And I was so in a reactive mode that I didn't have choice. It was just like reaction. And I didn't have a way to respond. And my MO was serving others. So it was a complete like life sacrifice on my part, like to cut myself out in order to serve others. So it was such a phenomenal switch when these storms came through. And then I learned, like, I need to actually get help myself. I need to focus on myself, and I need to learn how to decelerate, not accelerate. So now I need to go into that like stagnancy. I need to like go into my inner self. And in that inner landscape, I would ask, like, how can I serve humanity better? By serving myself first. And like not skipping out on my own self-care in order to be of service. And that's when King and I really started working on this, becoming more fully human. And I started to see this paradigm of, going into myself and decelerating gives me a pause to now make a conscious action moving forward. And if I can stay in that regulation, I can excel and breathe and excel and breathe. And each time I do that, my intention when I accelerate is more aligned. Not on a doing, but on a maintaining that way of being. So it's really this becoming fully human is a practice in having choice over construct.
There's
And-
so many different ways that you can get to those states of existence that you're really trying to achieve too. And everybody has a different way. And I've been through so many different teachings and classes and workshops, and I've even offered them myself, and coming to the knowing of there is no one way, that everybody is different, and we want them to be different. I don't want anybody to be anything but their authentic selves. And when you encounter somebody who's authentic, it's like a breath of fresh air, because you can just have that connection instantly. But to get to that state, I think there's few and far between that haven't experienced something pretty significant going on in their lives that made them stop and pause and be like, whoa, okay. I need to keep going. Something you said, Jess, prompted me to, remember Rob Bresney. He's written several books. One of them was Pronoia, and how the universe is conspiring for you, not against you. And that if you could just learn the language of everything around you in your state of existence, you would see that everything is trying to help you and reach out to you and point out and share and assist you in whatever it is you need.
I believe that wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, that's a quote that I subscribe to, I should say, govern my life. And that is, live as if the universe is rigged in your favor. Which is what you just outlined. And if you do, life opens up to you. Because to me, and this is where the system engineering part of me comes down to a logical step. There is no value in choosing not to think that way. There's arguments to be made not to think that way, but there's no value in my mind not thinking that. And if you choose to not think that way, again, that's your choice. That's one of the things we're blessed with as being separate consciousness in the context that we can govern how we operate moving within the world. The problem is that we don't understand that we have that power over ourselves. And we when you accept your identity from someone else, i.e. the construct, through your cultural conditioning when you were born, then that's going to determine 6 key things about you and how you move, whether you do it consciously or not. So that goes, as Jung talks about, the subconscious stuff that you don't know. And if you don't understand identity first, it governs all your beliefs.
Yeah.
It determines how you look at the world, your attitude. So you're going to be, how you're going to respond to the world. It governs your ambitions, what you desire to do. It governs who you love. It governs who you hate. And then more importantly, at the end of the day, it governs what you choose to accept as your life and death choices.
Right.
And knowing that you didn't intentionally choose that yourself and not being clear on what that is means that you can be triggered at any point. And that's where the world now is becoming so divisive in its language and its messaging and the news channels. Like, it's so divided now. You can just find out what a person thinks by asking them, what's your news source?
Right.
right? That's
Right.
clearly showing you what they believe.
What do you fill your brain with? Yeah.
That tells you everything about them. By just watching it back 30 years ago, it didn't. Someone says I watched, CNN or the evening news, you didn't already have an image of them. You couldn't already just paint a broad brush. Now you could just check a box and say, I know exactly who you are, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
on the news source. They say NPR. Right there, you got an understanding of who they are.
Yes, this
If
is
they
true.
say PBS, if they say Fox News, right? If they say MSN.
Think of how conditioned we are to have that from our childhood. Like the childhood I grew up in was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was like a constant question, right? And my answer was always something like, I'm going to achieve, right? So I wanted to be like an astronomer or an astronaut, and the accolades I would get for just holding that belief. Whereas my best friend Mandy wanted to be a taxi cab driver.
That's fun.
That was her belief. And so I look at the conditioning she got for that. Like when I'm saying I want to be something that gets accolades, and she's saying she wants to be something that's ordinary. Right. And like witnessing how she got reactions on that. But now I see her as this bold human being who can do whatever she wants to do. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because at age 5, she was like, I'm going to choose who I am. Yeah. Not based on the feedback that I'm going to get, where I was already programmed, like, I'll choose that one because it's going to get me a positive feedback.
I didn't have that growing up. Nobody was like, do this, or you should be this, or you should be that. I feel like I was like a feral child in a way. Like my mom was just so preoccupied, and my parents were just so preoccupied with whatever they had going on, that it was just like, go outside. So I just went out and did whatever. I was so fortunate. I got to just be in the woods a lot of the time. And because I grew up in the mountains, and we would literally go to our lake house camp from the moment school got out until about 2 weeks before school went back into session. And it was just my brother and I in the woods, just making up whatever we made up or whatever we did. And how great that was. But later on in life, like when we came to being adults, is like, hey, nobody gave us any guidance. We don't know what to be doing here. So we kind of had to learn on our own, which is really great in a lot of ways. But also, we had a lot of things missing because of that. And so again, it goes back to that balance and making choices and learning that you can choose to be in the identity you want to be in. And I think some of the time those guidances are great because it forces you to challenge yourself into making decisions and choices and learning, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. Or, there's something to say about failure, or failure, I put that in quotes because it's not failure. It's like, oh, you tried this. It's all about experiencing, to me. And I'm finding that that's not for everyone. Experiencing isn't for everyone. A lot of people are configured differently, where they need that sense of security simply because they're configured in a more mentally oriented existence. And that's not to say they don't have big hearts. It's just that that's their passion. And passion plays a huge role in how you live your life and what sparks that passion. You could be a writer, and that's very mentally oriented, but it's also deeply connected to your heart and your soul existence, because where do all those ideas come from? And those connections come from somewhere inside of you. And how do you get there? And that awareness of how you get there. And I find it fascinating. I'm very fascinated with human behavior and human connection, and not just connection from human to human, but how humans are connected to everything. The natural world, we are the natural world. It's not like we're connected to it or part of it. We're animal. so we can't not be connected. They say that mushrooms are the closest connection that we have, right, to the natural world. So yeah, and mushrooms are considered plant-based, so we have that as well. And I could go all woo-woo on you on that, but I'll save that for another time. But I just find it fascinating. And as long as you can keep that fascinating aspect, like fascinated in aspect, I think you can overcome pretty much any issue thrown your way. Even death. I think if you can be fascinated in the state of losing your human existence, maybe, I don't know, maybe when I die, maybe I become a different human. Maybe I become an evolved human. Maybe I become, I don't know, Zimbudu from the planet Zuza, or I don't know. I don't know. And in that not knowing, we have to be safe with that, feel safe with the not knowing, so that we can expand our existence and our humanness here.
Mm.
King, you've got some interesting stuff I'd love to hear about up on the screen.
Yeah, I was going to say that everything you said in reference to sacred geometry and connections and spiritual alignment, and as you say, the way you view the world, your chosen path, the way you see your identity. Same with you, Jess. We're choosing and leaning into the fully human thought process. And to me, what I wanted to look at is, okay, being fully human, I believe, is one thing to say it and accept what being fully human is. But then how do you live it? How do you maintain it? And that's where the becoming is, that it's a lifestyle. It's not just, I'm arrived, I'm fully human. I'm constantly on the journey to become fully human. That's what you're saying when you really understand the concepts, when you outline in the frameworks. And so in sacred geometry, I realized there's 6 pillars that I look at, and more can be added. But as a starting point, say, this is what I see as ways to maintain being fully human. That once you start with your identity first and you accept, I want to be fully human, or I am fully human, or that's who I am above my race, skin color, gender, religion, sexual orientation, political party, trauma, career, Democratic Party, political party, whatever, anything that divides us and sees othering. I'm not that. I'm fully human, and anyone who sees fully human is, we have that in common and alignment right off the bat as a way of communicating and beginning to build and bond. Then from there, it's next having a growth mindset to realize that I don't have all the answers right now, and that every day I'm looking to learn and grow, and that life is that journey of constantly learning and growing and improving and knowing more. And that's the beauty of life itself, that every day you wake up, you get another opportunity to learn something new. And when you understand that, it's just at its core, what you learn and what you do from there is just the choices you make and truly, that goes back to identity. Your identity is going to govern those choices that you make. So having that growth mindset to continue to learn. And then now committing to higher purpose and serving is next stage, and saying that at very least, here's what I want to do. I'm just going to commit my life to being higher purpose and serving others. That's where I'm going to be focused in my intentions. That's where they're going to grow in and develop and build from there. And then what's going to help me stay there and not lose sight of that is having a grateful spirit. That's what gratitude, as we talked about, comes into play, and understanding it's a state that we're in, and choosing that state to be in gratitude, and making sure that in order to stay in that state, you go through your gratitude list. It's not just saying I'm grateful and then someone asks you what you're grateful for, you really can't articulate it, and not being performative with it, but being truly authentic and believing and living in that state. And I believe that what helps keep you in that state is your governing principles next. Your governing principles dictate how you see the world and how you discipline yourself based on justice and injustice in your own mind, not what someone tells you, but what you define as what I see to be justice. And for me, I look at justice and injustice as increase and decrease. Either it's a decrease to me and people around me, then that's what matters. And if it's an increase, then that's what matters. And a collective energy of love is always going to be uplifting and making people feel good. No one ever felt bad for getting more love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's always love, then there's always going to be a feeling of greatness. So governing principles governing how much you stay in that space. And like, for example, my governing principles are, I have 9: integrity, love, faith, wisdom, generativity. And I'm gonna go through all of them, but just to set the context, that's what I govern my life by, and ask myself, are my actions governed by those principles? And I'm saying true to that, and then measuring that weekly and daily, and setting intentions from that as well. And then that leads to the last one, which is self-awareness. Having the self-awareness to even be aware of these 6 pillars and having an impact on, and my consciousness in the space of my environment, the people I'm around. What's my impact and value that I bring to the world, and being aware of that. And so those are the 6 pillars. That's what I wanted to show you on the screen and get your thoughts on it. But that's at its core is where I'm also showing where we are individuals like Rachel, you and I have never met in person. And we've gotten to the point where we're building and have a deep bond, and it's based on resonance. And that's what people got to realize, that when we advocate for fully human, it's not just some mystical way of thinking or spiritual bypassing or racial bypassing. It's truly understanding that it's not in your best interest to stay constricted within those cages. As Mark Twain would refer to it, as humans are the only animals that would put themselves in a cage, lock it the key, and then hold the key in their hand to show the people, I have a key to my cage. When you're bragging about your identity, it's like, yeah, I am this, I am that, and you stand in that and you're ready to fight or kill, die or kill for the identity. And it's like, it was never your choice,
right?
So at least if you're gonna have that kind of intentionality with it, let it be something you choose, and then have principles with it, and have a growth mindset with it. And then I believe eventually everybody would get to the same place if we kind of behave within this kind of a framework. And to me, that's what I believe we've been doing thus far, is building this without intentionally putting it in this framework, with good aspects of it. And our connection has grown over time. And that's where I see others can be a part of a movement around love, energy, and being fully human.
I can definitely see this progression in all of us as we've been on the journey of becoming more fully human and discovering this resonance field with each other. I'm like, oh yes, okay, we are opening new self-awareness together.
And just more life force energy comes about from offering that, and just from being that, so that you can offer that. King, I love that you have this, and so there's a part of me, and I'll go back to the vulnerability that I was sharing about being vulnerable. And there's a part of me that's like, wow, look at what King's done. He is so incredibly organized, and he has these pillars, and here I am like, yeah, I'm just going out in the world and I'm going to experience it. And how completely different that is, but how perfectly it all clicks together at the same time. And like how we can have these conversations, because from my perspective, I get to learn from King, like, oh, look at how he organizes this, and he puts these into these beautiful categories and can share it like that. And I'm just like, yeah, from over here, it looks like this, guys, and it's really fun. And, and I've got this passion to throw back at you. And from over here, it's this, I can't quite articulate it, but I think you can feel it. Or from down here, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like this. And, I'm seeing that this is here because of this and this and this and this. And I know these are stepping stones for me to come back above surface. And, it's just, and I'm experiencing the mindset. I'm experiencing the purpose of it. I'm experiencing what that has to offer. And I'm grateful for it. And I see my inner governing principles as a result of it, and the self-awareness that comes even deeper, and creating a more or not even more, just creating identity as I go along and allowing it to shift and allowing it to blossom and bloom and grow as it needs, and not having to be like someone else, somebody else's construct that works for them. And Jess, you have the same, you have the same way about you, just finding those ways, and how, a lot of people are coming online now and they're like, oh, they're becoming aware or more self-aware, and they're like, but I don't know how, I don't know what, and there's like this chaos that lives within. I know I've experienced it on many levels. And just little things, just that little pause, give it to yourself, the breath, recognize that you're breathing, period. Yeah, I've talked to so many people, they're like, wow, I never stopped to think about I'm breathing.
To take one conscious breath in a day is an incredible accomplishment.
Or where does your food come from? I don't know, the grocery store, like literally. My son works on top of a mountain during the summer months, and somebody asked him two things. Somebody said, what mountain are we on? And literally, I mean, there's like banners and huge like stone pillars that say what mountain it is. And they're like, can you tell me what mountain we're on? So they're completely oblivious. And then there's an elevator through the mountain, and people who literally even live in a city are terrified to get in that elevator inside the mountain. And what he shares with them is he says, where do you work? And they're like, oh, on the 30th floor of blah, blah, blah building. And he's like, so you feel safer going up an elevator in the skyscraper than you do in this elevator inside of a mountain? The mountain's stable. And they're like, oh, they just don't think about it. It's just something new. And when something new comes along, to be able to address it in a way of curiosity, in the state of, oh, I might have something to learn from this. I might have a growth from this. I might have an awareness, or just, wow, let's just experience it. To be able to get to that state is key. Otherwise, it can kick your butt.
Yes. And it's a practice, right? Just like taking that pause, taking a breath, and allowing a different experience to arise that is somewhat in the field of curiosity. And you even brought it up in the space of death, that like you could even be curious in that space. Because no matter what this life brings to us, if we have the belief that the universe is conspiring in our favor, and I know that that's coming to me, to have that experience in a way that's joyful and easeful, it's like we can actually navigate this world together in a way where we're not reactive, because curiosity becomes the new guide rather than fear.
And that's what I outlined with growth mindset. Curiosity is that growth mindset, realizing and knowing that you don't know. Right? So what I don't know, I must learn. And that's the beauty of life. Nature's there to teach you. You can learn from nature. And to me, anything that takes you out of that state, and we know this personally from traveling the world, it doesn't matter in which country you go to, that indigenous population of people who are closer to nature, they're more peaceful people. They're more peaceful people by nature than folks who are not. That's just seems to be consistent across the board. Everywhere I've seen indigenous people who live closer to nature, that they're more peaceful operating people. Not to say they don't have issues, but they live closer to that energy of guidance from nature, and that's their true north. I suppose our true north is being controlled and not understanding what we believe in moments of deep crisis. Introspective analysis is required. Like, who are you really behind that voice in your head that's been telling you that who you are all this time, and you realize that you're not that voice?
Who's that one telling you?
Right. And then being able to observe that voice. If you can observe that voice and say, Why am I thinking that? Where that thought come?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that exercise. It's like, okay, are you thinking? Yeah. What are you thinking? Oh, I'm thinking about the red box over there. How do you know you're thinking of that red box? What's telling you that you are thinking of that? Because that's not your brain telling you. That's
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
Right.
And who's watching and who's watching you think about the box?
Yeah.
That's my question. Who's the watcher? Who's
Yeah.
the observant awareness here watching me have this thought?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the person to me, I believe, that's your higher self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's always present. That's always been there. That's
Yeah.
been there from the very beginning. That wants to lead.
Yeah.
But our construct programming tells us that's not who we should listen to. We should listen to this other voice in our head that's been programmed there consistently. It tells you that when you're hungry, Burger King is where you go to get something to eat.
Right.
Not me.
Oh, right. So people choose, but other folks who don't critically think,
Yeah.
they think I'm hungry, it's late night, I want something quick for the kids. Burger King and McDonald's. What do you want? Right? And that's where there's those seeds, all those commercials, all those advertisements, all those sponsorship, the sporting events, and you seeing that's what all that pays off, is that in those moments when you are not thinking, you're just on autopilot, you're gonna think about McDonald's because you've been programmed. You're gonna think about Burger King. Now it just comes down to a preference of which one of those two you like.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get something to eat, something to drink before you go home, because you have to. You've been programmed to think that.
Yeah.
Until you start choosing your own thoughts and you realize that you choose health, that's not healthy to do.
Or even if you got curious, like, why is that default thought already there? Why, when I'm hungry, is it those two options? Even if just to get curious about, like, how did those thoughts get there?
Right.
And now at this point in my juncture, could I say, I actually don't know what I want, instead of choosing the default options, and then make a new choice?
Yeah, where's the actual truth in that thinking process? When you have the ability to stop and pause. Oh, wait a minute. I'm hungry and I'm only offering myself these two options. Wait. And why? And what's better for me? And there's a million different questions that you can put into that. And that's key too, is remembering to question, not just outwardly, but inwardly.
Yeah.
I think, and how many times when you're a little kid are you told, stop asking questions? Or just stop asking questions. But to ask those questions, it brings you more information, it brings you more data, which gives you more choices, which brings you more depth.
Yeah. And I was full of questions as a child, and I remember when I had to dampen them. So I have an interesting story to share, though, because we're talking about frequency and having the ability to be coherent in a higher frequency. And so coincidentally enough, I went to a very high frequency place called Machu Picchu in Peru. And I met with a beautiful shaman, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I traveled all the way to Peru. He's going to have the answers, So I'm sitting with him. I'm walking with him as closely as I can. I'm like listening. And what was so interesting when I'm like asking these questions of like, I want the answer, and his consistent response was, I know nothing. I know nothing. And to be in that curiosity, because when you know nothing, like when you don't have the answer, and this was something that I learned as an educator with children, like they just want to come up and get the answer. They got the worksheet. They're like, what's the answer to this one? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, how cool of a response is it for someone to not know? Because then automatically it sparks the curiosity within the seeker.
And they can't know, because they can't know what's in your heart. And that's, Todd always uses that story. He's like, I had the natives out. He lived in New Mexico, and when he's introduced to some of the tribal members, and he's like, the same way. He's like, what about this? And what about me doing this? And they're like, we can't tell you. You have to figure out what's in your own heart. And, and that nothingness, it's almost the opposite of identity but being able to sit in that nothingness brings you your authentic identity
Yeah.
because you've released all of that. But it's not easy to get there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of legwork to get there. And
Yeah.
maybe it's not, and that's putting a connotation on the journey of getting there, which I don't think is fair either, because and that's a conditioning as well. Like, oh, we've learned that going through an illness is, oh, that's bad. But no, look what it brings you. It brings you this greater, different outlook, greater, same, putting a connotation on it. It brings you more fulfillment. And I've been learning to choose my words in the last probably last 10 years. I've been learning to choose my words differently, rather than, oh, that's good, that's bad, I like this, I don't like that.
Yeah.
How about, that's interesting, that's fascinating, that's phenomenal, that's I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I've heard you kind of remove these things. Even yesterday, I heard you remove the label of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've personally been through some label removing. Like, I grew up with the label of I'm motherless. I've removed that label in this time. I had a label that I was bipolar. I've removed that label. I had a label that I was gay. I've removed that label. So
Yeah.
there's something about this, like becoming more fully human, where labels are just like falling off.
Yeah.
And I'm witnessing it in you as well, where it's like, oh, wait, if I have that identity cancer, then, where's my curiosity and how the universe conspired in my favor for me to have this experience?
Yeah, it's funny, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I was like, I'm not taking that. I'm not holding that, because I don't want to hold it. And I think that there is a portion of the teachings where if you hold on to something, you actually hold on to it, like literally, physically, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't have proof of that, but it is freeing on a lot of levels to not own it. But at the same time, there's a balance in owning it in a way that allows you to go through it and utilize it, and almost love it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's key with anything on a lot of levels, to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like you're not bypassing it, you're not ignoring it.
Yeah.
Right? You're
Yeah.
actually holding it, but not gripping it. You're
Yeah.
being responsible for it, but not identifying by it. And I see that in King too. Like, he's being responsible for the race identity, and yet he's not attaching to it any longer.
It doesn't govern my behaviors. And see, that's where I get strength from Rachel, because she's choosing to do that in that moment, and that's where, to me, that's where, again, it gets further proof that in any situation you can choose your identity.
Yeah.
You don't have to be locked into whatever that identity is. And the question becomes, is that truly best serving you right now in this state to get you out of the situation that you're in?
Mm-hmm. Like, for example, okay, so I'm not obviously you, King, and I'm not you, Jess. You lived a life in the LBG, never can say all the rest communities, and I didn't. But if I were to go to like a festival, I'd be joining right in this dancing and the joy and the celebration, and I mean, that's right up my alley. And the same, I have. But that's not my identity. But I'm able to connect in that way. And same, King, with you. Like, my sister married a Black man from the inner city, in the inner Bronx, and I went right down there, and I didn't care. I didn't even see color. Didn't even take into consideration that I was the only white person in sight for miles and miles and miles. And I'm walking down the street with I think it was 15 balloons. I'm like, hey, everybody, look at me. You know, I don't care. I want to join in. I want to interact. I want to be human. I want to connect to the humanness of each person, not the identity, not the role, not the newscast. I always have had this in me where, and I know that, you know, and I have done this where I'm sitting next to somebody who's famous for whatever, and I'm just like, hey, yeah, blah, 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 and chatting and just allowing our hearts to connect and just being real as people and letting all the other stuff go and not having a fear to do that. So I'm grateful that I've had that in my life. But, you know, as a result of not having that fear, you know, fear does play a role in our lives. It does, the ego, I should say, does play a role in our lives. And that goes back to discernment and allowing it to have its place and allowing it to be used as a tool. But like you said, King, not to govern you, allowing that true inside, whoa, who's the person that knows that you're thinking, allowing that voice to be the one that actually governs. And I think in the yogic teachings, there's like 5 aspects of the mind, not the brain, the mind. And one of those is the buddhi. And the buddhi is the part that does sit back and can see, oh, wow, this is going on. You're thinking this, and there's a fire over there. So the other aspect of the mind that wants to kick in is going to be like, hey, be aware, there's a fire over there. We want to keep you safe. And I forget all the other aspects. But just to say that they're, just to know that they're there brings you a deeper awareness. And be curious. Find that. However it is for you. Go to church. I don't know. However it is. I thought at one point in my late 30s, early 40s, oh, I'm going to go back and see what church is like. I banned church because I grew up Catholic, and I was like, no church for Rachel. And now it's like, and then at that point, now that was then now. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to really explore this. And I'm like, no, still doesn't resonate for me. And now I know why. And so what? It doesn't resonate for me, but I can still see through it what does resonate, and I can see what's trying to be accomplished depending on the stance I want to take on it. And allow it. Allow it.
You're seeing beauty and life in everything.
Following the beauty way. Yep.
I create a frequency signal based on that same principle. I call it the fully human anthem. Do you mind if I share with you all before we end the podcast?
Yeah, please.
Since we're vibrating at that level.
This is not music. This is a frequency signal. AI is the instrument, king. Service to others is the rent you pay for the room here on earth. Muhammad Ali. There are 4 agreements that are required before proceeding. They must be spoken before being. Number one, understand that energy is the law. Everything is frequency, and everything you saw in constant motion, never fixed, either increasing or decreasing. And increasing is the seeking. We don't identify by labels that they gave. Race was engineered to keep your genius enslaved, not post-racial. This is deeper, this is the shame. The construct is the enemy. We are putting you onto the game. When you carry that label, you surrender half your power. 50% of your 8 forms gone within the hour. The construct is lethal, laminating your inhibitions, forcing the double consciousness, destroying your volitions. Human emergence. If you don't believe, allow me to demonstrate what your spiritual energy number without hesitate. Right now from 0 to 10 at this exact time. If it's 6 or less, then the construct has your mind. The energy that's draining doesn't vanish into air. It floods into your shadow and it meets you everywhere. Your shadow becomes your default. Now it's running the machine, governing your thoughts and behaviors quietly unseen. Your emotions lose their anchor, your spirituality fades. Your soul energy gets muffled, your wisdom energy degrades. Your faith begins to atrophy, you're running on the fumes, creating a predator-prey relationship between the system and the soul. That 50% draining is the normal state. Over your actions now, you're once you release it, something shifts. You stop vibrating in the womb and catch the sovereign drift.
This is what it means to be fully human,
Fully aware, fully mindful,
fully grateful too.
principle centered in everything you do.
You own your mind with a commitment to grow.
Sovereignty is the only identity you know.
Your intention is your identity.
Your purpose is the intent.
This is what it means to be fully human. Transcend the lethal label.
And ignite your soul.
Volitions.
Trade descriptive. Struggle for your generative missions. The first step is a gift, a bridge you choose to build. Giving to a deserving soul and letting voids be filled. That's how you enter the tribe, by leading as a giver. Sending your frequency signal is a beautiful intention to deliver. It's a declaration, connect, engage, co-create. The tribal resonance system is the key to every gate. The first act is sacred, it's a signal to the stars that you're ready to heal the wreckage in the sky.
This is what it means to be fully human,
Fully aware, fully mindful,
fully grateful too.
principle centered in everything you do.
You own your mind with a commitment to grow.
Sovereignty is the only identity you know.
This is what it means
To be fully human,
transcend the legal label.
let ignite your soul.
Volitions.
To trade descriptive, struggle for your generative mission. 180 days, no shortcut, no cheat code. A journey through the smelter on a sovereign sacred road. 6 months of solitude, the fire in the forge, clearing out the shadows that the construct tried to gorge. 8 energies in motion, 3 tears to emerge. Deliver, then the seeker, then the co-creation surge. 6 pillars of the graduate, the graduation day. Identity and growth mindset are leading the way.
It's not a destination, it's the journey of the breath. Choosing life and increase over the construct's slow death. Can you feel the frequency? Can you hear the call? When you are fully human, lifting up one lifts up all.
Fully human,
Quantum connected, the signal is 10.
fully human,
The increase is now 180 days.
fully human.
Walk with me.
I am sending you my signal
Are you picking up
of who we are
when we are
when we are
fully human?
Ancestors,
I'm broadcasting my signal.
ancestors.
M-E-O-P-O-K.
We call your name,
M-E-O-P-O-K.
we call your name, we call your name.
M-E-O-P-O-K.
Are you picking up?
Are
You picking up?
I love you, King.
What do you think?
I think that's great. I love that. So one of the ideas that came to my mind while I was listening to this was, this is not my genre of choice. This is yours. But that message is the same as my message of choice.
Mm.
And that's pretty awesome when you can think like that. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not patting myself on the back, but if we could all think like that and just allow each other to be that, and allow each other to grow in that way, and be able to express ourselves in that way, because I think our innate existence is exactly what I just heard in the words that you shared, which is the frequency, regardless of the genre you chose that resonated personally with you for that allowance and choice. And I wrote something down, just allowing yourself to feel through the emotion. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
it really is a somatic experience to feel the frequency and to receive the words. It's a real gift of frequency.
That's the
it's-
true frequency. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. And so that's the thing, is that Well, that's what I've learned through this journey is that once you release the racial construct, prison from your mind and see the people as human beings, it's a freeing spirit. Because other than that, everything you're saying, if I'm looking at it from a racial construct, is viewed through that racial construct lens. I'm judging you on what you're saying. I'm missing your message. I'm evaluating your level of understanding of what Black means. And how dare you speak about this? Right? Those are the voices in my head about filtering through that lens, as opposed to I trust and feel your energy and feel your authenticity and what you're saying, your intentionality. And I know now through your actions as well who you really are. Right? That's where, to me, that's who you spend your time with. You're dealing with those individuals, not individuals based off people telling you because or your same skin type or same Democratic Party or your same religion. And that's why you should deal with them and give them grace for when they do you wrong.
Yeah.
That's the most insane thing in the world, is to say, because of my skin color, I'm going to give my entire skin color grace. And everyone else that harms me that's opposite that, it's one that I'm going to have venom for.
Yeah. It's insanity. It's insanity. I'm like looking back at the times in my life where I made decisions based on a box. You know, there's some people that fully vote based on a box. It's just like, it's an incredible freedom to not be functioning in that world anymore.
I don't vote. My son gave me so much hell about it, and he's like, "You need to vote," and I'm like, "All right, I'll vote." And I was like, "How can I vote? I don't want any of this. This needs to shift. This needs to change." And this is a whole big topic for me to say publicly, but so I did, to help to appease my son, who I loved so much. I voted for him. I voted for my other son. I voted for my mom and dad. That was the only way I could say I don't agree with this, and that's it. So I still took my privilege and utilized it in the best way I could find. That's all I had.
And see, to me, my thoughts on that in the identity perspective is, why can't we just all agree on the fact that voting should be something you should be inspired to do? The fact that you don't want to do it is a very problem within itself. Yes. So what can we change to get to that we can all agree that at the very least, voting should be something people want to do and generally are interested in doing? If we solve that problem, it changes everything about voting. Because most of the people in Baltimore, 38% of people vote. Let's say 38% control the city. And that's where people don't vote. We debate on, and I get it. Why would you want to vote for something that's just as bad? One now has gotten to the point where it's deeper than it's been, different along political lines, but different among identity and who's accepted into the club.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how divisive has grown to that point where identity has played that stake in the politics. And that's the thing that just governs how people behave. We talked about over the weekend, but we have to say this for another show because we have to go into our next Goddess Chair Circle in 3 minutes, our next movement that we're building. So with that being said, and mindful of that time, I'm going to table that conversation and say, ladies, what's a closing thought you can say? And as we wrap up today's podcast, let's give a closing thought.
My closing thought is curiosity. Like, curiosity is king. Curiosity is king. I'm curious about what you're up to, and I'm more and more curious and leaning into this conversation every day. So grateful to be here, having the becoming more fully human with all my curiosity.
Yeah, my final thoughts are the gratitude for being able to be here, to share these thoughts, to share these beliefs, whatever it is, to share me. and to also experience what others have to share and allowing that reflection and flow back and forth. I'm grateful for that. It helps me become more of me.
Mm.
Gratitude. And I'm grateful that you two are here with me, building with me, proving to me that this is my journey and this is the path I need to be on, and resonating with the messaging, but also living this way as well. It's not just you accepting your thought process. You've been living this way your lifestyle, but it's now seeing what alignment is. And that's a beauty. That's a growth mind, and I see you in all the 6 pillars. So you often have a representative of that for me. It's just really been a wonderful journey to be on this with you. So thank you for joining me today's podcast. I appreciate it. And for our listening audience, thank you all for listening. Until next Tuesday at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time, let's all continue to search for the path to become more fully human. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.